It's common to hear people express fear in buying land, particularly in Ghana, due to past bad experiences. Now, the reasons span from issues relating to double sales, buying from the wrong owner, and in some cases, failure to do due diligence on the part of the person buying the land. I have with me a special guest, well versed in this matter. He would break it down for us. But before then, let's go for a break. This is the Real Estate Show. This is the Buena Vista Homes Real Estate Show. The show is proudly sponsored by Buena Vista Homes, where homes are not built, but beautifully crafted. The show is also streaming live on our Facebook and on our YouTube channel. My name is Efia Fusua. Let's go for a break, and we are back shortly. In the industry, and this man seated next to me, who I'll introduce shortly, is well versed when it comes to matters relating to land acquisition in the real estate sector. So there's a lot to expect from this interview, and you don't want to miss a thing at all. We are streaming live on Facebook and also on our YouTube channel. Do also subscribe just so you don't miss any of our videos. Today, as I earlier indicated, we are discussing land acquisition, what the law says, and other related matters. Dr. Wilfred Kwabena Enim Odame. I got that right.
You got it.
You're
right.
Welcome to the Buena Vista Homes Real Estate Show.
Thank you very much.
Right, it's good to have you. We've been searching for you for such a long time. Finally, we have you.
Wow.
Yes.
That's good to know. That's very good to know.
Right. So, Dr. Wilfred Kwabena Enim Odame is a chartered valuer and a real estate investment expert. He's also served as the former executive secretary of the Lands Commission and senior technical advisor at the National Development Planning Commission. So you now understand when I told you I have been on a woman hand to bring you the best. It's good to have you on the show.
Good to have me.
Right.
Yes.
I'm so excited about today's episode because we are talking about land, very core in real estate. Now, help us understand how much or how significant is land as a resource in real estate?
Thank you very much, Efia. Land, as we all know, is a real estate vehicle, and it is a resource for real estate investment by providing the space for all activities under real estate market. You will be very surprised to know that land can be termed as an investment vehicle.
Right.
It is an investment vehicle through which real estate is manifested. Real estate in terms of residential, office, industrial, or other block and mortar assets. Right. So if you want to actually define real estate within the real estate context, you may want to understand that it is a vehicle for wealth creation.
Right.
It is a vehicle for individuals, for families, and even for corporate entities to create wealth. Okay. And it provides that platform for real estate to manifest. Beyond real estate, we can even define land as a factor of production. You and I know.
Okay.
In basic economics, land is a factor of production. Land also is a physical space for life.
Okay.
If you take away land, there's no life.
I agree.
So land provides a space not only for real estate, but for life. So I'm not surprised that real estate thrives very well when the location of the land is excellent.
That's right. It's why often when you ask of what's the most important thing in three most important things in real estate, then they tell you it's location. Right. Let's now move on to the types of land ownership.
Yeah. And in Ghana, we have 4 broad categories of land ownership. 4. So I'll take my time and walk through the 4 categories. Right. The very first category is state invested lands. Okay. We have the state invested lands. So it's 2 in 1. So I'll start with the state lands. State lands are lands that have been acquired through compulsory acquisition by the state, or even purchased in the past for public use.
Okay.
And these state lands constitute about 20% of the stock in this country. 20% only. You find that these state lands are managed by the Lands Commission, because the state has given the Lands Commission the mandate to manage these lands on behalf of government. So the state owns the land in perpetuity. If I say perpetuity, I mean forever and ever.
Okay.
The land belongs to the state forever and ever,
Okay.
in perpetuity.
Okay.
Legally, they'll say it's an allodial interest.
Allodial.
Absolute.
Okay.
So the state owns the land absolute.
All right.
So the Lands Commission, acting for the state, can grant an individual a leasehold up to 99 years for residential, and then up to 50 years for commercial activities. So any individual, a family member, a corporate entity can apply to the Lands Commission for a leasehold on a state land. 2% of the state land is defined as vested lands.
Okay.
For vested lands, there are two significant characteristics. We have the legal ownership and then the beneficiary ownership. The legal ownership of vested land is vested in the state. So it is only the state through the Lands Commission that can grant a lease on a vested land. But the rent and the income accruing from vested lands are enjoyed by the stools.
Okay.
Even though they are managed by the state through the Lands Commission,
Okay.
the rent and the economic benefits that inure from the ownership go back to the stool.
Okay.
So one we want to know why certain lands are known as vested lands. There are reasons.
Okay. Tell us.
Some of the reasons are for planning purposes.
Okay.
For instance, in Accra, North Yolu, part of the land is vested. Government wanted to plan North Yolu in a nice way, vested the land from the stool in the state. So North Yolu lands are vested on land use planning purposes. The other reasons why a vested land will be defined is through conflicts by chiefs.
Okay.
For instance, in Nkoko, Sunyani, and Winneba, we have vested lands over there. Okay. There were chieftaincy land disputes in those areas. So the government took over control over those lands and earmarked them as vested lands. So they are being managed by the Lands Commission, but the rents from those lands are given back to the various stools.
Okay, just so peace would prevail.
Exactly. So that's the first category.
Okay.
And the second category is the most common and popular stool lands.
Okay.
I'm sure we all know stool lands. And we believe that anytime one wants to buy a piece of land, he wants to go to the chiefs or the kings to acquire land. The stools are controlling about 80% of the stock of lands.
Okay.
So stool lands are lands that are communally owned by members of the stool. In the northern part of the country, they don't have stool. They call them skin lands.
Okay.
Because their chiefs will sit on a skin. You know, stool land is connoted by the fact that our chiefs sit on a stool.
Stools. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
So it's called stool land because the chiefs sit on a stool. And these are stool lands because the chiefs or the kings are the custodians managing these lands on behalf of the people.
Right.
So the stool lands are communally owned by the stool or the skin, and the chief or the king will transact on behalf of the community. The third category is the family lands.
Okay.
Part of Accra, we have an area called Bawi. I'm sure you are familiar with Bawi.
Yes, I do.
Bawi lands are all family lands.
Okay.
It means the land belongs to the families or the clans. So family land are also very similar to the stool lands because they belong to the community,
Right.
a smaller group known as the family.
Okay.
So the family head is the one who can only sign a transaction in respect of a piece of land. So family lands, clan lands are also communally owned, and the family heads are the people who can transact in conjunction with the family members. And then the fourth category is what I will call the private lands.
Private lands.
You and I,
Okay.
we may have been lucky to have inherited the piece of land that our forefathers or our grandparents bought outright. So if you have a land that was purchased outright and has been transferred to you, you, the individual, will become the allodial owner or the freeholder of that land.
Right.
So it becomes a private land.
It becomes a private land.
Yes.
You're welcome back. You're watching the Buena Vista Homes Real Estate Show. The show is proudly sponsored by Buena Vista Homes, where homes are not built but crafted. We are streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel. I still have with me Kwabena Enim. Kwabena Enim he's teaching, and I'm making notes. I hope you're making notes as well. After this episode, if you buy land and you make a mistake, please, that one you would have yourself to blame. But we don't want you to do that, so keep attention and learn a few things here. Kwabena Enim, it's good to have you.
Nice having you.
We're enjoying the conversation. Let's now talk about freehold and then leasehold. I believe it also falls under ownership when it comes to
Yes, you are right. You know, when you purchase a piece of land, you are not buying the space, as we all know.
Okay.
You are buying a bundle of interest in the land. And those interests are defined differently. Your interest could be a freehold interest or a leasehold interest. So what is a freehold interest? A freehold interest is having a land or a piece of land absolute. You are the owner in perpetuity. You enjoy using the land, occupying the land, and you have every right to transfer the use of that land to your generation after generation. Freehold.
Okay.
Free, absolute. And this freehold is derived from the allodial interest that the chiefs and the family heads will sell to you.
Okay.
Once you buy from them absolutely, it's a freehold. But the Constitution does not permit transactions in that nature any longer. So after the 1992 Constitution, you cannot sign a transaction as a freehold.
So all land acquired after 1992
Are all leaseholds.
leasehold. Okay.
Unless you bought it as an individual, as I defined earlier on.
Okay.
That is a private land.
Okay.
You own it absolute.
Okay.
Then you can sell it to somebody absolute.
Freehold.
But if you are buying from the chiefs or the family heirs, they cannot sell a freehold to you now. You can have a leasehold.
Okay.
So a leasehold is a secondary type of interest after the freehold.
Right.
And as the name defines, leasehold, it means you have the right to use the piece of land for a specified period.
Right.
So your leasehold can be for 99 years, for 80 years, or for 70 years, or even in some cases, 45 years.
Okay.
But this has to be mutually agreed between the parties.
Okay.
So a leasehold is what we call a terminable interest. It will extinguish at a point in time, depending on your tenure. So let me take this opportunity to advise Ghanaians. As you sign your indenture, read carefully to understand exactly how many years you are buying from the lease.
Read carefully
To understand how many years are being transferred to you.
Right.
Are you buying for 99 years,
Okay.
80 years, or 70 years? Because legally, the indenture will contain the duration of your lease.
Right.
But most often we don't read. So we don't even know the tenure that we are buying. Once you have a leasehold, you can also create a lesser interest known as a sublease. So if I have a 99 years lease, and if you approach me that you want part of the land, I can decide to give you, out of my 99 years, give you 50 years.
Okay.
So the transaction will not be a lease, but it will rather be a sublease.
Sublease. Okay.
Because I already have a lease with my lessor.
Right.
And I'm giving you part of my interest. So I'll give you a sublease.
The lessor is the person you bought the land
The
from.
person
Okay.
I bought the land from.
Okay.
Hey, you are learning very fast.
Very fast.
The person I bought the land from is the lessor.
Okay.
And I'm the lessee.
Okay.
So between the lessee and the lessor, the transaction is known as a lease
Right.
or a leasehold.
Okay.
Now, if you decide to take part of my land and I give you 60 years, between you and I, the arrangement will be a sublease.
So I'm a sub what?
You'll be a sublessee and I'll be a
Sublessee.
sublessor.
Hey.
So a sublease is a lesser interest.
Right.
We can even go further down. After a sublease, we can do a tenancy.
Okay.
Yeah. I can decide to give you a tenancy for 10 years. You become a tenant and I remain your landlord.
Okay.
So these are the stratas of interest that we have in a piece of land. So legally, it is said that a piece of land consists of a bundle of interest.
Okay.
A bundle of interest from the allodia, the freehold, the leasehold, the sublease, and the tenancy.
Okay.
So when you are buying a piece of land, you have to read to understand whether you are buying as a tenant, as a sublease, as a lease, or as a freehold.
Okay.
These are very important and we need to take note of it.
We need to take note of. Is there any relation between one's nationality and the amount of lease you get?
Excellent.
Okay.
That's a very good question. Yes.
Okay.
Nationality is very important. As a Ghanaian, you're entitled to up to 99 years for residential.
Okay.
And you're also entitled up to 50 years for commercial. Okay. Foreigners are required by law to obtain up to only 50 years.
Okay.
Foreigners cannot get a 99-year lease in this country. Their limit is up to 50 years, regardless of the use. It could be residential, commercial, or industrial. 50 years is the cap.
So if I buy a property from a real estate company that's owned by a foreigner,
Yes.
it means the lease I'm getting in there is 50 years.
No, the company might be a Ghanaian registered company.
Okay.
So they will transact as a Ghanaian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if an individual, if you are buying from a foreigner whose lease is up to 50 years, remember that you are buying a lesser interest from him because he cannot grant you more years than what he has.
Right.
There's a legal maxim known as nemo dat quo non habit.
This one I won't attempt to say it.
Nemo dat quo non habit.
Okay.
It means you cannot give more than what you have.
Right.
Or you cannot give what you don't have.
Okay.
If I'm a foreigner and I have a 50-year lease, I cannot transact with a Ghanaian for 99 years.
Right.
Because I do not have 99 years lease. So legally, you cannot give what you don't have.
Right. Interesting. At the Land Commission, I'm sure you've dealt with a number of issues regarding land issue here and there. They've sold it to me, they've sold it to another person. Walk us through some of the mistakes you have seen people doing trying to acquire land.
I will summarize all the mistakes and say we don't hasten slowly.
Okay.
Every Ghanaian who wants to buy land is in a rush. That is our biggest mistake. We rush in acquiring land. You know, I remember when I bought my first car in 1992.
Wow. What car was it?
Mitsubishi Galant.
Hey.
It was a top car.
Okay.
You know what I did? I took the chief driver from my office, who picked a mechanic,
Okay.
and we went to inspect the vehicle. Even though the vehicle was imported from Germany, I picked a chief driver, a mechanic, together to inspect and tested the vehicle.
Okay.
Because it came from Germany, there was a service manual in the car. We had an opportunity to study the study manual.
Right.
And when we tested the car on the road, we were all satisfied that is a good deal to buy. You expect a typical Ghanaian to do more than this when he's buying a piece of land. Right. But what do we see? We go to inspect a land with the money in our boots.
Okay.
ready to pay, ready to start construction. We need to go slowly and not rush.
Right.
The biggest mistake is we rush in land transactions. And I think we should hasten slowly. Buying land requires due diligence.
Due diligence, the key word.
Due diligence. 2 words, due diligence. But what goes into it is more than 2 words.
Right, right. So now let's then talk about some of the checks I'm supposed to do. What do I do at the due diligence level?
Yes. At that level, I will expect you, the potential purchaser or the prospective buyer, to request for the cadastral or parcel plan. Cadastral or parcel plan. These are technical.
What does
If
that
I can explain that
Yes,
before we
kindly
go on.
explain,
Yes.
yes.
We have a cadastral plan.
Better still. Maybe we would hold on.
And then come back to it.
Exactly.
Okay, let me finish and then we
You're
come
the
back
best.
to it. I will have to explain a cadastral plan and a parcel plan.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah. Let's go for a quick break.
Oh,
Another
okay,
one.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
We'll be back shortly. I know you're enjoying the conversation, but don't worry. We are back shortly after the break. The show is proudly sponsored by Buena Vista Homes, where homes are not built but beautifully crafted. Get in touch with us on www.mybuenahomes.com on social media. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram as well. Just search for Buena Vista Homes. We are back shortly. Do stay. Welcome back. You're watching the Buena Vista Homes Real Estate Show. The show is proudly sponsored by Buena Vista Homes, where homes are not built but beautifully crafted. Today we are discussing land acquisition, what the law says, just so you can buy your land safely in Ghana. And I have with me Kwabena Enim. He's a chartered valuer and a real estate investment expert, also former executive secretary of the Land Commission. So he's helping us have a better understanding what land acquisition actually entails. Enim, you're welcome back.
Thank you very much.
You're talking about due diligence.
Yes. So let me walk you through some of the steps or actions that I will expect a potential buyer to follow through as part of the due diligence process. Right. First and foremost, you have to request for a parcel plan or a cadastral plan. Okay. I'll come back to explain the difference between the two. Yeah. A plan that you need. Don't ask for a photocopy. Insist to have an original plan.
How does that look like?
It looks on a slightly yellowish color.
Okay.
Yes. Oh. Not a photocopy.
Okay.
You know, if you run a photocopy, you don't know the percentage at which the copy has been set.
Okay.
It might not be 100%. It could be at 80% or 70%. So the size of the land will shrink. The coordinates on the plan will also shrink. And conducting a search requires the technical officers in the Lands Commission to place your plan on their scheme and to relate your plan to what they have. So if the site plan is shrunk, it will not rest on the exact location on your scheme.
Okay.
So I'll always advise buyers to insist that the landowner should give them an original parcel plan or cadastral plan. Okay. Once you get that plan, walk into the Lands Commission. They have a Client Service Access Unit, CSAU for short, okay. Client Service Access Unit, and make an application for an official search. Sometimes they will try to encourage you, let's do an unofficial search, it will be quicker. Insist that you want to conduct an official search. Okay. The search will reveal all historical transactions on the land. Okay. They will reveal all historical transactions on the land. And if the person purported to be the owner of the land has registered the land, his name will pop up. Okay. So that will give you an indication that you are dealing with the right person. Okay. So once you have the search report, read through and look out for the name of the person purporting to be the owner.
Okay.
You should find it in the search report. If it's not there, that's a big question mark. As a lay person, if you think you cannot appreciate the content of the search report, I will encourage you to engage a land economist or a valuer.
Right.
Some lawyers have expertise in land law, so they can assist. But I would recommend a land economist or a valuer for him to interpret the meaning of the search report, for you to appreciate. I will expect that the search report will give you the historical background, showing the transactions that have occurred on the land previously.
Okay.
Once you have that information, the next thing for you to do is to visit the land.
Right, Dr. Enim, thanks so much. Thankfully, we have part two of this conversation, so our viewers would get to learn a lot more. You've said a number of things. Cadastral...
Parcel plan, cadastral plan,
all
official
of these
searches.
see, they are beautiful. It's good to know all of these, but there's an easier way for you. When you buy from Buena Vista Homes, the lands at Buena Vista Homes are titled safe. It's the safest land
Safest you can
titled,
get. Yeah.
right? So it cuts short all of the burden and all of the stress you have to go through in trying to register the land, do the checks here and all of that.
It takes out all the risk.
Exactly. And so get in touch with Buena Vista Homes. Our lands are titled. You buy, we build for you beautifully. You can see the pictures rolling on your screen. I mean, what more could you ask for? Lay your property burdens on us, you know, as we often say, right? So, Dr. Enim, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Right. So we'll bring you part two of this conversation in our next episode. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll have a repeat of the show on Wednesday on the Joy News platform at 5:30 p.m. So in case you missed any bits of this conversation, you can watch us again at 5:30 p.m. Or you can always watch us on YouTube or on Facebook. The show is proudly sponsored by Buena Vista Homes, where homes are not built but beautifully crafted. Get in touch with Buena Vista Homes on 0303 401 401 or 050 130 4728. We are back same time next week. My name is Efia Fuswa. See you.